Would you ever venture into the ocean if you knew this creature could be lurking beneath you? It's twice the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Its jaws are big enough to crush cars, and it can swallow multiple humans at a time. This ancient beast is called a Megalodon shark, and if it had never become extinct, it would have a surprisingly large impact on our lives. How would it change the way we use our oceans? How big of a threat would it pose to people? And what are the chances that these creatures have been hiding deep in our oceans all this time? Let's find out what would happen if Megalodon sharks had never become extinct. The beast, what we're dealing with. Before we dive into what would happen if Megalodons still existed, let's understand exactly what kind of monster we're talking about. The Megalodon was the largest shark that ever lived. To put its size in perspective, imagine a Tyrannosaurus Rex, one of the most fearsome predators ever to walk the earth. Now imagine something twice that size, but in the ocean. That's a Megalodon. These prehistoric sharks measured anywhere between 10 and 18 meters long. The largest confirmed specimens reached lengths of about 18 meters, though some scientists believe they could have grown even larger. For comparison, the largest great white sharks today measure about 6 meters. A Megalodon could be 3 times that length. But size isn't the only terrifying thing about Megalodons. Their jaws were absolutely massive, large enough to easily crush a car. Scientists estimate that a Megalodon's bite force could have been anywhere between 10,000 to 25,000 pounds per square inch. That's roughly 10 times more powerful than a great white shark's bite and about 5 times more powerful than a Tyrannosaurus Rex. With jaws that large and powerful, a Megalodon could swallow multiple adult humans in a single bite. Not that it would want to. Humans weren't around when Megalodons existed, but the capability was definitely there. These were apex predators that feared nothing in the ocean. The sighting claims, internet theories. Over the years, reports of Megalodon sightings have emerged all over the internet. A lot of them claim that these giant sharks never actually went extinct, that they've just been hiding in the deepest parts of the ocean. Specifically in places like the Mariana Trench. You've probably seen the videos and articles, grainy footage of something massive moving in deep water. Eyewitness accounts from fishermen who swear they saw something impossibly large. Speculation about how these creatures could be surviving in the unexplored depths where humans rarely venture. It's an appealing theory for people who love the idea of prehistoric monsters still lurking in our world. The ocean is vast and largely unexplored. We've only mapped about 20% of the ocean floor. The deepest parts remain mysterious. So couldn't Megalodons be hiding down there? Now you can't personally dive down to the Mariana Trench to check for yourself. It's over 11,000 meters deep and the pressure would crush you instantly. But scientists say there's more than enough evidence to debunk these online accounts and sighting reports. If Megalodon sharks were still around, we would definitely know about it by now. Our oceans would be noticeably different and a lot more dangerous. Here's how scientists know with confidence that Megalodons aren't hiding from us. Why we'd know, the evidence would be everywhere. For starters, if Megalodon sharks still roamed our oceans, the last place they'd be going would be the Mariana Trench or any other deep, cold location. Megalodons were warm water animals. They lived in tropical and subtropical waters where temperatures were comfortable for them. The frigid temperatures of the deep ocean trenches would make it impossible for Megalodons to survive there. The Mariana Trench has temperatures near freezing. A Megalodon's metabolism wouldn't function properly in those conditions. They'd essentially be too cold to hunt, digest food, or even move efficiently. Plus, there wouldn't be enough food down there. Megalodons were massive predators that needed to eat enormous amounts of food every day. The deep ocean doesn't have the abundance of large prey animals that Megalodons would need to survive. Most of the large marine animals, whales, dolphins, seals, large fish, live in the upper layers of the ocean where sunlight penetrates and food is abundant. If these enormous sharks still existed anywhere in the ocean, we'd be finding their signature giant bite marks on other large marine animals. Megalodons left distinctive tooth marks when they fed, huge, deep gouges from their massive teeth. We'd see these marks on whales, dolphins, and other large animals. but we don't see any modern bite marks that match megalodon tooth patterns. We'd also most likely have found at least one carcass or skeleton by now. With modern ocean monitoring, underwater cameras, submarines, and the sheer number of people on and in the ocean every day, someone would have found concrete evidence. A body would wash up on a beach. A submarine would encounter one. A whale-watching boat would spot one. But that hasn't happened. The only remnants we've found of these prehistoric monsters are their teeth, and we've found a lot of them. Thousands and thousands of megalodon teeth have been discovered all over the world in areas that were once underwater. The teeth. What we've actually found. The reason megalodon teeth are so easy to find is because these sharks produced an absolutely incredible number of them throughout their lives. Unlike humans, who only produce 2 sets of teeth during our lifetime, baby teeth and adult teeth, sharks continuously produce new sets throughout their entire lives. Sharks are constantly losing teeth and growing new ones to replace them. For megalodons, this process was even more extreme. A megalodon would lose its teeth approximately every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, an entire set of teeth would fall out and a new set would grow in to replace them. These lost teeth would sink down to the bottom of the ocean where, over time, they would become fossilized in sediment. Over a megalodon's lifetime, which scientists estimate was around 25 to 30 years, a single shark would go through about 40,000 teeth. 40,000. That's an enormous number of remains being left behind for us to eventually discover. This is why we find so many megalodon teeth, but have never found a complete skeleton. Shark skeletons are made of cartilage, not bone. Cartilage decomposes much faster than bone and rarely fossilizes. So while the hard enamel teeth survive and fossilize easily, the soft cartilage skeletons decompose and leave nothing behind. But those 40,000 teeth per shark, multiplied by millions of sharks over millions of years, means there are countless megalodon teeth scattered across former ocean floors worldwide. People find them on beaches, in rivers, in areas that used to be underwater millions of years ago. You can even buy them online. Real fossilized megalodon teeth are sold to collectors. Yet we've never found a fresh megalodon tooth. Every single one we've found is fossilized and millions of years old. If megalodon still existed, we'd be finding fresh, non-fossilized teeth washing up on beaches regularly. Megalodon history. What we know. Because we've never found an intact megalodon skeleton, there's still a lot we don't know about them. But here's what scientists have been able to determine from the fossil evidence we do have. Megalodon sharks first appeared in the fossil record about 16 million years ago. They evolved and became the dominant predators in Earth's oceans, ruling the marine food chain for about 14 million years. That's an incredibly long time. Modern humans have only existed for about 300,000 years by comparison. These giant beasts measured anywhere between 10 and 18 meters in length, with most adults reaching around 15 meters. They had massive, powerful bodies built for hunting large prey. Their teeth were triangular and serrated, perfect for cutting through flesh and bone. Megalodons preyed upon anything from large fish to dolphins to seals. But their favorite prey was whales. During the time megalodons existed, whales were abundant in the oceans. Megalodons would hunt whales by attacking from below, taking massive bites out of their flippers and fins to immobilize them, then delivering killing bites. Paleontologists have found fossilized whale bones with megalodon bite marks, showing us exactly how these predators hunted. Then, about 2.6 million years ago, megalodons disappeared from the fossil record. They went extinct relatively suddenly in geological terms, and scientists aren't exactly sure why. Extinction theories. Why did they disappear? The extinction of megalodons is still debated among scientists, but there are several leading theories about what caused these apex predators to die out. One major theory is that they became extinct due to decreasing food sources and increasing competition for that food. Around the time megalodons went extinct, Earth's climate was changing. The planet was entering an ice age, which caused ocean temperatures to drop significantly. Many whale species began migrating to colder waters, following the food sources that were moving to these newly cold regions. But remember, megalodons were warm water animals. They couldn't follow their prey into these colder regions without suffering metabolic problems. At the same time, new predators were emerging and competing with megalodons for food. Killer whales, which are actually large dolphins, not true whales, evolved during this period. These intelligent pack-hunting predators could work together to take down large prey. Great white sharks also became more common and were competing for similar food sources. So megalodons found themselves in a difficult situation. Their primary prey was moving to waters too cold for them to survive in, and new competitors were taking the food that remained in warm waters. Another related theory focuses specifically on the cooling ocean temperatures. The theory suggests that megalodons simply couldn't adapt quickly enough to the cooling oceans. Their large bodies and warm water metabolism made them vulnerable to temperature changes. As temperatures dropped, their metabolism would slow, making them less effective hunters. Young megalodons, which were born in warm, shallow nursery areas, would have been particularly vulnerable to temperature changes. Additionally, the cooling climate may have reduced the overall productivity of warm ocean regions, meaning less food available at all levels of the food chain. With less food supporting fewer large prey animals, megalodons couldn't sustain their populations. Regardless of which theory is correct, or whether it was a combination of factors, the result was the same. About 2.6 million years ago, megalodons went extinct, and the oceans changed dramatically in their absence. If they never went extinct, the food chain collapses. Now let's imagine that extinction never happened. What if the climate hadn't changed? Or what if megalodons had somehow adapted to the cooling oceans? What if they were still here today, swimming in our oceans alongside all the modern marine life? The impact on ocean ecosystems would be massive and catastrophic. Scientists estimate that an adult megalodon needed to eat about 1,100 kilograms of food each day to sustain its enormous body and active metabolism. That's over a ton of food every single day. For perspective, an adult great white shark eats about 30 to 50 kilograms per day. A megalodon needed to eat 20 times more than that. If megalodons still existed today and were eating that much, there would barely be enough large fish, seals, dolphins, and whales left in the ocean for them to survive, let alone enough for other predators, and enough for humans to fish sustainably. The whale populations that currently exist would be decimated. Whales are already vulnerable to human activities like ship strikes, fishing net entanglement, and ocean pollution. Add megalodons actively hunting them, and whale populations would collapse. Many species would likely go extinct entirely. This would create a cascade effect through the entire ocean ecosystem. Whales play a crucial role in ocean health. When they dive deep and return to the surface, they bring nutrients from the deep ocean up to surface waters, fertilizing the growth of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton produce a huge portion of Earth's oxygen and form the base of the ocean food chain. Fewer whales means less nutrient cycling, less phytoplankton, less oxygen production, and less food for everything else in the ocean. The presence of megalodons would completely reshape ocean ecosystems in ways we can barely predict. And it wouldn't just affect marine life, it would dramatically change human civilization too. The fishing industry, disaster at sea. One of the first human industries to be devastated by living megalodons would be commercial fishing, and the problems wouldn't be limited to megalodons eating the fish we're trying to catch, though that would certainly be a problem. We could see megalodons tracking fishing boats and stealing the fish they catch, similar to how some killer whales currently do. Killer whales have learned that fishing boats with nets full of fish are easy sources of food. They'll follow boats and eat fish directly from the nets. Some have even learned to steal fish from fishing lines. Imagine megalodons doing the same thing, except they're 3 times larger than killer whales and need to eat a ton of food per day. They'd trail fishing vessels, wait until the nets were full, then tear through the nets and devour the catch. The nets wouldn't be able to hold them back. Megalodons would shred through fishing nets like tissue paper. But that's not even the worst part. The bigger problem would be that megalodons would have already eaten most of the large fish before fishing boats could catch them. With megalodons consuming such enormous quantities of fish, dolphins, seals, and other marine life every single day, fish populations would plummet. Commercial fish species would become so depleted that fishing would no longer be economically viable in many regions. The global fishing industry, which currently provides food and income for hundreds of millions of people worldwide, would collapse or at least contract dramatically. Coastal communities that depend on fishing would face economic disaster. Shipping and cruises, dangerous waters. With ocean temperatures currently warming up again due to climate change, megalodons would be thriving in our modern oceans. Warmer waters mean better conditions for their metabolism, more comfortable hunting grounds, and ideal conditions for reproduction. This would result in growing megalodon populations. That would spell serious trouble for maritime shipping operations and cruise ships. Ships today occasionally strike whales, which can damage the ship and kill the whale. Now imagine a collision with an 18-meter shark. The damage could be significant. But more concerning would be the possibility of megalodons intentionally attacking ships. Killer whales have occasionally attacked boats, and there are historical reports of sperm whales attacking whaling ships. A threatened or aggressive megalodon could potentially damage or even sink smaller vessels. Large cargo ships would probably be safe from direct attacks, but smaller vessels like fishing boats, yachts, and small cruise ships could be vulnerable. The presence of megalodons would make ocean travel more dangerous and would require new safety protocols and ship designs. Cruise ships, which often travel through warm tropical waters where megalodons would be most common, would have to completely rethink their operations. Swimming pools with ocean water intakes would be dangerous. People falling overboard would have almost no chance of survival. Cruise companies might stop operating entirely in certain regions. Beaches, the end of ocean tourism. Perhaps the most dramatic change for regular people would be what happened to beaches and ocean recreation. Swimming in the ocean would become extremely dangerous, possibly deadly. Megalodons gave birth to live young in warm, shallow waters. These nursery areas were typically coastal regions with relatively warm water and protection from open ocean predators. Sound familiar? That's also exactly where humans like to swim, surf, and play in the ocean. A nice recreational beach swim could turn deadly. Young megalodons would be in shallow waters learning to hunt. Their mothers would be nearby, protective and aggressive. Even juvenile megalodons would be large and dangerous. Imagine a 3-meter baby megalodon, already larger than most adult sharks, swimming near a crowded beach. Beach tourism, which is a massive global industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars, would essentially cease to exist. Beaches would be abandoned. Swimming would be prohibited. Surfing would be suicidal. Snorkeling and scuba diving in most areas would be impossible. Coastal cities that currently depend on beach tourism would face economic collapse. Entire regions whose economies are built around people visiting beaches, places like Hawaii, the Caribbean, Mediterranean coastlines, Australia's beaches, would be devastated. A different world. If megalodon sharks had never gone extinct, our world would be fundamentally different. The oceans would belong to these massive predators, not to humans. We would fear the ocean the way our ancestors feared dark forests filled with dangerous predators. Ocean ecosystems would be shaped by these apex predators. Whale populations would be smaller or non-existent. Fish populations would be depleted. The entire marine food chain would be different, which would affect oxygen production, climate regulation, and the health of the planet itself. Human civilization would have developed differently. We'd avoid the oceans whenever possible. Maritime trade would be riskier and more expensive. Fishing would be limited or impossible. Coastal cities might not have developed the way they have. Island nations might never have been settled. The good news is that megalodons did go extinct 2.6 million years ago, and they're not coming back. The conditions that allowed them to thrive, abundant prey, warm oceans, lack of competition, no longer exist. We can enjoy the oceans without fearing these prehistoric monsters, though perhaps we should still respect the ocean and the creatures that do live there. If you enjoyed imagining a world where prehistoric predators still existed, subscribe for more explorations of how extinct species would change our modern world, and maybe be grateful that some extinctions actually made life better for us. Stay curious,